known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.
Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Welcome in right here to WagerTalk TV. You're watching Puck Time, a hockey betting show you can find here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'm, of course, Andrew McInnis. I have Carmine, Bianco with me, and Don Buster in his usual Tuesday spot here. We have 4 games to break down. All 4 of these games tied up at all 4 of these series, tied up at 2 games apiece. So looking forward to breaking things down. Looking forward to getting the opinions of both these guys. And, well, it should be a great day of hockey betting. Carm, I'll start with you, man. Happy you made it safe and sound during your travels. What were your thoughts on last night's NHL games and how you feeling going into today?
Feeling great, man. The temperature here is 31 degrees Celsius. I'm not even sure what that is in Fahrenheit for our American viewers. I'll figure it out shortly, but having a great time. We arrived yesterday. It was a long day, a bit of travel and stuff, of course. And then we had some dinner. I made sure my wife had a couple margaritas. She was passed out and asleep by 9:30, and I watched NHL hockey until the very last game was over. We saw some good games yesterday. The Florida one was a little frustrating. It wasn't a great start to my hockey night because I had them in a regulation and the total in that game. But Calgary Flames, Colorado did exactly what I thought they would do, and they clinched my series price for me because I had Colorado minus 2.5 games in that series, minus 110. And that sweep, they look so good right now. They're playing so well as a unit. Nashville had some fight to them last night, but they just couldn't deal with Makar. Man, that guy is absolutely unbelievable. But 4 great games tonight, Andrew. Every series tied at 2 here. This game, they usually say game 4 is the pivotal one, and yes, it usually is. If a series is obviously at 2-1, you either go up 3-1 or you're tied at 2. But we got like 4 big games tonight, and anyone taking the lead in this series obviously has the big advantage. Especially the road teams that are playing tonight would love to pick up the win, the W, have the lead coming back home and close it out in 6. So we'll see how it goes tonight. But before we do that, let's bring in Don Buster.
Good morning, everyone. It's going to be a great night in hockey. Can't wait. As you said, Carmine, if a visiting team can grab one of these games, it's going to be key because I don't know about you guys. I can see at least 3 out of 4, or who knows, maybe all 4 of these series is going to a game 7. And that's what we love with the NHL. Makes it the best sport in the planet to watch and actually to play. But anyways, that's another story.
Well, you just love to see close games, and it's interesting to see. I love how with some of the series, home ice hasn't been a factor. Some of them, it's been a massive factor. And speaking of that, let's jump into our first game we're going to break down here with the Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes. That series has been the definition of home ice advantage as both teams get it done on home ice. Boston now on the road again here in Carolina. Plus 125 underdogs, Carolina minus 145 back at home. Total sits at 6 in this one. And, Carm, yesterday with Marco, we were kind of crunching some numbers. I was talking about the average margin of victory in the playoffs. It was somewhere now about 3.5, 3.6, which is unbelievable, especially for puck line bettors, but also for the average number of accumulated goals. Totals are hitting at a big rate right now. And you look at the Penguins versus Rangers series, one that I initially thought was going to be low scoring, and this Boston and Carolina series, a series that we continue to see goals in different types of ways here. When I look at this matchup, though, Carm, I like Carolina quite a bit, but when I talk about this team, I always talk about that third line, how that third line with Jesper Fast, Jordan Staal, there's so many guys on that team that can make a difference. Whereas for the Boston Bruins, I've been saying it all year long, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that I have been saying it, is that they're top heavy. And that Marchand, Pasta, and Bergeron line is so good, but they can't be out there the entire game. But they actually were out there the entire game because Boston was on a power play for what felt like it was the majority of the hockey game just 2 days ago. Where am I going with this? Well, I don't think the Carolina Hurricanes will take 7 or 8 penalties in this game. And if that's the case, we'll get more 5-on-5 action, which means it'll be the battle of the depth. And I think Carolina is the deeper team. So I'll take Carolina tonight. Karim, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, obviously it's a big game. Boston knows what's ahead of them. Excuse me, in this one, and Carolina knows they don't want to head back to Boston where they dropped 2 games. This series, and I talked about it in Carolina before the game 2 in Carolina, where it just seemed eerily similar to Carolina's series with Nashville last year that ended up going 6 games in that one where Carolina finally took care of Nashville. This is the same thing. Listen, I agree with you, Andrew, as far as Boston goes, and they're a top-heavy team. Their power play had been almost non-existent for the last week or 2 weeks. I think at one point, I think it was prior to Game 3 or in Game 3, they were 4 for 50 on the power play, but they get a couple of power play goals in that one. Carolina a little undisciplined, and 5-2. I've been looking at the totals in this game more than the sides. Any of my clients know that, and I've been giving out free plays on the first period. And that's where I'm looking at. The books have finally caught up. They've had this total at 5.5 for the first 4 games of the series, and we finally see a 6 across the board on the WagerTalk live lines in this one. But the first period total is not adjusting juice-wise. It's -1.5, -125 as of this morning. And I put it up as a free play on the WagerTalk free play section. And it's where I'm going on this one. I think we're going to see some more goals, whether they come via power play. Andrew, we've talked about it. It's been unconventional the way the goals have happened in this series, but they are still happening. All 4 games have gone over the total. And the last 3 games, the first period has gone over the total in the last 3 games. The only game that didn't was Game 1, where it was a scoreless first period. The game finished 5-1, but the analytical numbers as far as periods go was the highest for the first period as far as goal expectancy than the other 2 periods. And it was one of the reasons why I gave out Game 2, Game 3, and Game 4. And that's where I'm going here. I'm going to take over the total in the first period, 1.5 -125. I don't see a
real
close,
quick, Carm,
low-scoring
going
game.
Going into yesterday, Carm, we saw 16 straight first period overs. I had someone send that to me on Twitter, and I'll tell you what, you've been taking advantage of it. I wish I knew about that trend because 16 straight in the playoffs, it's a pretty good streak there.
Yeah, there's some weird ones. I'll throw another one out, but this was through the first 4 days of the NHL playoffs. And someone actually, I'm not sure if he was trolling me or what, but I put up there that the team scoring first has gone on to win 15 of the first 16 games of the playoffs. And some guy's like, so how do I use this? I'm like, you can't. It's just a stat. Like you talk at the bar, you have a beer with your friends. And maybe, Andrew, you know how to turn those ones into it, where you look at a team that scores the first goal. Do you then take that team to win the game? But it was just an interesting stat. It's just bar talk, kind of like the zigzag.
Right. Buster, what are your thoughts here on this series? Obviously, like I said, we've seen the home team dominate. Boston didn't look good through 2 games. They go back to TD Garden and get the job done back-to-back occasions here. Are you buying in to the momentum switch here, or do you think Carolina still holds the series?
I'm with you, Andrew. I really like Carolina. I know the penalties. Geez, you cannot take penalties, especially in playoff hockey. And, even last game, Carolina looked like they were right in that game. And then they're on a 5-3 power play for Boston early. They get that goal, and Carolina just can't get it done. Both games here, they looked very good, 5-1 and 5-2. I really like the fact that now Rantna gets another game. He, came back last game. Maybe he's going to be really good this game. Well, if history says he will be really good, he's 10-2 in Carolina with a 2.04 goals against average. That's going to come into play. But what I really like here with Carolina as well, not just being at home, is that home atmosphere, crowd. They have to, arguably they might have, of all the teams left in the playoffs, that I know we just started, I'll just say all the teams that started these NHL playoffs, they probably have the best home crowd. I know Nashville would maybe argue that a bit, but as far as in playoffs, it's a crazy atmosphere there. That's going to really help. I'm pretty sure Carolina's very disappointed in that last game because I think it was within their grasp. But you can't take penalties in this league. That's just the way it goes. You just can't do it, right? As for the total here, I know they've all gone over, but I like Carolina to win a game here, something like a 3-1, 2-1 even. I think it's just going to be one of those games that Carolina plays that defense. And you have to remember, I don't know what's going on with this Carolina team on their penalty kill. They were the number one penalty kill in the NHL this year. They go into Boston, they allowed 4 power play goals. Now, they only allowed 1 in Carolina in those first 2 games, but 1's too many for the number 1 team. And like Carmine mentioned, Boston's power play wasn't the best. I know it looks like the perfection line now that they're put back together. They look like they're unstoppable. I think Carolina will stop them tonight. I also think Boston probably wins game 6 and we go to game 7. I can see that in probably, like I say, all these series. It wouldn't surprise me. But for me tonight, like Carolina, like it under now that we have a 6.
All right, Don, I'm going to offer you a little bit of a rebuttal. If this game finishes 2-1, I'm going to shave my head prior to the next show that you are on. But I think we see some goals. It's not going to be a 6-3 game, but I think we get close to it sort of mimics what we've seen thus far through 4 games where we see some unconventional scoring and maybe some power plays this time, hopefully from the Carolina side. Andrew, before I throw it to you, because you are the $2 capper today, and I want to mention $2 Tuesdays. Guys, it's $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. And of course, $2 Tuesdays is where you can get a featured cappers play for only $2. These are plays that normally sell for $25 and $35. Over at WagerTalk, of course, it's Andrew McInnis. Absolutely on fire in baseball. He has a 5% play up in the MLB tonight, 29-11 with 5% plays, an absolutely phenomenal run. And of course, at Sports Memo, it's a trio of cappers. You can get them each for $2 or all 3 for $5. John Ryan has an NBA play. It's a $5 max best bet. 5% max best bet. R&R Totals has a WNBA game. It's also a 5% play. And then none other than that good-looking man right there, Don Buster, with a NHL 5% big ticket play. You can get that for $2 or all 3 guys for $5. Definitely pick it up, take advantage of it. And inside the analysis section, there are some great deals you can take advantage of. So, Andrew, I'm going to throw it back to you and wish you the best of luck tonight.
Thanks so much, Carm. Appreciate the promo there. And just like you mentioned, for both Buster and myself, with those plays on Tuesdays, not only are you getting that play, but you're getting so many great deals and specials inside the analysis with those plays, which are worth the $2 alone. So, guys, check it out. 5% play up in the MLB. I will be transparent, though, as I always like to be. I did lose my 5% NHL yesterday, but it's been a great season, and unfortunately, you can't win them all. Buster, best of luck to you on yours as well. I'll have to get that play off you after the show. I know you've been taking care of business with those big plays, so I'm sure you'll cash another one tonight. Guys, we have several great games to get into. Tampa Bay and Toronto. Buster, I'm going to go to you first with this one. Toronto, they're minus 130 back at home. Tampa Bay, plus 110 on the road here. Total sits at 6.5. If this was a sports podcast where I could talk about the teams and the players, I could go on and on and on about the series and what these players have done and how it's been blowouts and William Nylander being scared to go into a corner because everybody thinks I hate the Leafs, right? But no. This is a betting show. We got to keep this about betting, not about talking about players or teams in that sense. I want to talk about the over here, Buster. I can't see this series slowing down as far as the goals. No matter who wins this game tonight, I think it would take a lot, whether it's an early start or, fast start, it slows down, whatever it might take as far as that pace in the game. There's nothing that I've seen so far watching this series to tell me that I should take an under in this series. So at 6.5, no movement to 7, I think we see another over here between these two clubs. What are your thoughts going into tonight's game in Toronto?
Well, as you know, I'm not going to sit here like you, Andrew, and say that you don't hate the Leafs, because I know you do. And everybody knows that watches the show, because believe me, in my DMs and in all the comments I get from the Leafs fans that, they wish I'd never come on this show, blah, 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 all that stuff. Yeah, I hate the Leafs. But this might be a show that you might almost want to watch, because I'm going to say a lot of good things about the Leafs, because I'm actually really shocked on how they've been playing. Even though they didn't play that well last game, they have there's a lot of good things that they've been doing here that, who knows, if they keep doing it, they might get lucky. Or should I say, if Tampa Bay keeps doing what they're doing, then the Leafs can get lucky, because that's what's really happening here. Toronto, they came into this series as a number one power play, and they're showing that. If that power play is better than I thought. I knew they were number one, but I mean, come the playoff times, we all see what happens to number one power plays. Just have to watch Florida-Washington series. Florida has like the 4th or 5th power play, and they haven't scored a goal yet. So that tends to happen once a series goes longer, but it's not happening here. Also, in Toronto's favor, which, I'll have to give him credit. You mentioned about Nylander there, and that's what I expect out of a Leafs team right there. But you saw last game, the third period, that they showed some heart. And for me, with a big bet on Tampa Bay for this series, that's troublesome for me, that they actually showed some heart, because you don't see that out of a Leafs club. You just don't. So that's something good in the Leafs' favor. Also, what's really key, they're killing Tampa Bay in the faceoff circles. And anybody that knows playoff hockey knows that that's a key part. Getting that puck back to the point, getting those shots in, it's key for success of a club. So I am a little worried in those two aspects. But here's the bad news for Leafs fans. Tampa Bay, Mr. Vasilevsky, he hasn't showed up for 4 games. He's a guy, if he plays, he can play like Ottinger played for Dallas. He can play lights out hockey. If he shows up, the Leafs are in trouble. Also, Tampa to a man have talked about they can't let what's happened in game 1 or in game 3. They can't let the Leafs get on top of them right off the bat. That experience of Tampa Bay can come into play here. Although I truly expect the Leafs to come out and have a better first period. I'm hoping Vasilevsky actually has the best game of his series, because he's going to need it. It's going to be a tough game tonight for Tampa Bay. This is another series I firmly believe goes 7 games. I'm hoping Tampa Bay can make it go 6, because if Toronto has to win tonight, I believe this is a must-win for Toronto tonight, because they're not winning Tampa Bay in game 6. So Leafs fans, you have a lot to. They're playing well. They're playing better than I thought. They're still, in my opinion, there's still a goaltender and a coach and maybe one defenseman away from being a Stanley Cup champion. But one other thing I'm going to add, guys, is that how does Campbell come back from that shellacking in game 4? He didn't look good. How does he come back in that? That will be key as well. And you'll know all these answers probably in the first period. So for me, I don't have any part of this total, but I do like the Leafs for the first period.
Buster, I feel like you're on I feel like you're on a podium right now, just addressing all the people in your DMs and in the comments that you were just addressing Leaf fans in that. I told you
the comments I get, like,
but Buster, I get the same thing. But it doesn't matter.
I know you do.
But we are on a radio show. We're just talking hockey. We're not a radio show or a sports media.
I've got 40 years of this, of being with everybody I know, a diehard Leaf fan. I mean, I have friends back in the early 90s that didn't leave their house for weeks, called in sick for a month, took months off because the Leafs lost in the semifinals. But Buster, believe me, this has been part of my whole life.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's not like I'm first of all, we're not sports radio hosts. We're just sports betting hosts. We're talking about from a betting angle. And history tells us that what do we have to say good about them in the playoffs, I mean, it's not like I'm being biased, So I get what you're saying. And to follow up on a couple of things there about Jack Campbell, I tweeted out the other day, why is it that every goal that the Leafs allow in, it's nobody else's fault but their goalie? It's no wonder Frederik Andersen's in Carolina now having a great time. Well, he's injured now, but that's my issue, is that he had a couple of bad goals. Don't get me wrong, but there's a couple of bad defensive plays. The forwards didn't show up, but every single time the Leafs win, wow, great game from Matthews and Marner. No praise to Campbell, but whenever they lose, it's always Campbell's fault. So that kind of bugs me as far as just like from, an opinion standpoint. But Carm, the face-offs that Buster mentioned, I feel like that's huge in the series. Of course, it's huge when you have home ice. And of course, I talked about it with you last time we were on the show about being the team that gets the last change, how important those matchups are. And now the Leafs are back at home. They get that opportunity to have the last change. And now it's Sheldon Keefe versus John Cooper as far as those matchup goes. What are your thoughts here? I like the over 6.5.
Yeah, I'm fine. I can finally jump in here. I was waiting for our producer to chime in with some of the violin music for during Buster's little rant there about the Leafs. Listen, I get it. You guys get a lot more heat. The whole Montreal-Toronto rivalry thing, I get it. But Andrew, to your point of, it's going to come down to obviously how the coaches match up these lines, and obviously. Puck possession is a big thing. So obviously having that last change is huge, especially in the defensive zone as well too. When you want to match lines and you have your face-off specialists out there. It's been a weird series and one that I haven't been involved in much, if any, at all. If you've been following along with my plays, I've only released one of the 4 games they've played thus far. I've only released one play, and that was Tampa Bay plus money in game 2. I think they were plus 110 in that game, and they won that game 5-0 against 5-3 against the Leafs. I'm likely going to get involved in this one tonight again because I actually like Tampa in this spot. Listen, they lit up Campbell. He tried to come off. He tried to stay on the ice. We saw that long discussion, him and Sheldon Keefe at the boards. He wanted to stay in. Keefe made the switch to Shalgren, and it's probably good he did because he was fighting the puck. He wasn't playing well, and I'm just starting to think that this was the Campbell that we saw prior to his injury that was struggling as well too. It doesn't bode well for the Leafs. I said the Leafs are going to have to outscore teams, and obviously. In the playoffs, you've got to outscore teams, but they have to win bigger scoring games because they can't play a defensive game. Yes, they beat Tampa in that first game 5-0, but this Tampa team can score. I think they're starting to find their scoring. I don't think it bodes well for Toronto. I think they lose at home tonight. This goes back for a crucial game 6 in Tampa. I said from the start this was going to be a 6 or 7 game series, and it is now. It could very well go 7. I think it ends in 6, and I think the Tampa Bay wins tonight. So I'm taking Tampa here plus money.
Hey, Car, I'm taking advantage of the plus money here, plus 110 on the road team, Tampa Bay Lightning, after coming off a nice win. One thing that Buster mentioned that I want to reiterate that I really agree, and I thought was a great point by Buster, was about that first period and about the teams getting a good start. I might slightly disagree a little bit about, the end of the game, because I did tweet about how it's good to end with positive momentum, but Nylander getting 2 goals when you're down 5 goals, does that really mean much about, do those goals mean anything maybe for his confidence? But I do agree about the first period. That's why I took Tampa Bay in the first period last game. I wholeheartedly believe in this series, we might consistently see the team that wins the first period win the hockey game. The first period has decided the pace of the game, decided who's going to control the game, and it's really given all momentum and confidence to that certain team. So, again, I do urge people, if you like a team tonight, maybe split that bet up even. A half bet on the first period, money line, half bet on the full game. I do believe the first period is so crucial for both these clubs. And it's just so interesting. We've seen a blowout here, blowout there, but the series is tied at 2 games apiece. One more series. Go ahead, Carmine. I feel like you have something to say here.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to what I said before, just to give you a reasoning for liking Tampa. But tonight is they lost that first game 5-0, Andrew, and they have really gotten better as this series has gone on. That 5-3 game in game 2, they dominated the Leafs in that game. Leafs got a couple late goals. Then Tampa loses at home 5-2. Let's remember that game was 3-2, 2 empty net goals by the Leafs. That was a close one, minus the empty net goals. You have to look at the final analytics. And then they blast the Leafs 7-3 in the following game. They've built throughout this series from that terrible game where they just didn't show up in game 1. They've gotten better with each and every game. But thus, we're still at 2-2 in the series, and it's still anyone's series to win. But I think of the teams, they're actually getting better as this series progresses. And this is why I'm willing to take the plus money tonight on Tampa.
I would also say real quick to anybody that likes the Maple Leafs tonight, I would take some props on the top guys. I would look at Matthews to get involved. I would look at Nylander to score a goal, Marner to get an assist. It's one of those games where I think if they have success, I think their top guys perform to what they're capable of doing here. But once again, another great series to break down. We have coming up next, the St. Louis Blues, Minnesota Wild here. The Minnesota Wild are minus 140 at home. The Blues are plus 120 on the road here, guys. Total's at 6.5. And you talk about a series, again, where we've seen a lot of, lopsided victories here. You look across this series, and what we've seen really is one team dominate, okay, go back to the drawing board, the next team dominate here. And you look at the St. Louis Blues, they found their offense, Carm, through that last game. Ryan O'Reilly, Tarasenko, and company are really starting to get the job done and get behind the defense of the Minnesota Wild. It's been a real weird series here. I'm sticking with my St. Louis future I made before the series started. And I'm just going to ride that one out. So I'm actually kind of on the sidelines for this game. But I really do kind of see a zigzag type series between these two. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I still think this could very well be a series, Andrew, that goes 7 games. We're seeing it. It's obviously it's going to go 6. I like your point on St. Louis, and I have a futures bet on St. Louis. So I'm not really sure if I'm getting involved. I might take the same approach, which is I'm going to take, if Minnesota wins this game tonight, I'm going to take St. Louis at home in game 6 to send this to 7. But I took a bit of a bad beat on that last game. I had under 6.5 to get an empty net goal with 2 minutes left to make it 4-2. And then a power play in which it looked like they weren't trying to score. They were just cycling the puck. And then it's a shot that Fleury, because just completely muffed, goes into the net, and it's the final scoreline of 5-2. I wasn't happy about that, let me tell you. But with that said, I'm staying away from the total. I actually think that this is going to be another one of those games where if I was going to take a total, I would lean to the under because this game 5 is a crucial one. I just don't see how they're going to go back and forth. This just feels to me like that game 1. That game 1 in Minnesota and that game 3 in St. Louis, where there were lower scoring games, 4-0 and a 5-1 game stayed under the total. I feel it's going to be that way. I don't see one team blowing out the other in this game. I think this is an easy, even series that's going to go 7 games. I think it was earmarked to go 7 games from the get-go, and it's looking like that's the way it's going to go. So I'm going to, as far as a show play, I'm going to look at the under in this game. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but I'm not sure it's going to make my card today. Buster?
Yeah, I can't blame you, Carmine, on the under here. That's for sure. But in saying that, I see, I know you guys didn't say you like St. Louis for tonight's game, but I am against St. Louis for tonight. I really like Minnesota tonight. And I'm almost going to go with that Vasilevsky theory as well. It's not so much of a theory as it's a fact. Every time he loses a game in the playoffs, the next game he wins. I think, what is it, 16-0 now? Well, Fleury didn't have a great game last game, as we all know. I think he bounces back in a huge way tonight. And Minnesota at home, I actually really like Minnesota here. I also like them in the first period. Andrew was talking about a little correlation on first period and full games. I actually like that correlation with the Minnesota here. One problem for Minnesota is that they're losing the special teams. Again, now we all knew coming into this that would be Minnesota's downfall. So far, they're tied 2-2, but they have to get better in the special teams. As far as faceoffs, they're basically almost tied. Like they're even almost with faceoffs. So that's not a big thing. But of course, being at home, Minnesota should have a little bit of an advantage there. Another reason I really like Minnesota tonight, Bennington will be in net, I think, even if it is Husso. Those two guys have not been sharp on the road. No doubt about that. At home, very good. I'm of the belief of Carmine here. I think Minnesota wins this game tonight, maybe 3 or 4-1, and they go back and St. Louis wins game 6, and they come back to Minnesota. And I'll even go out and say, going to the Back to the Future day with my Marty McFly sports almanac. I don't know if he was the one that had it, but whoever had that sports almanac to see the future, it wouldn't even surprise me if we get a overtime game 7 here. But as far as tonight goes, really like Minnesota, like them in the first period, like them in the game. I'll go with Carmine on the under. Don't think it's going to make my card, but I do like that play, Carmine. So best of luck to you with that. And Minnesota the play for me.
Awesome stuff. It sounds like all of us expect this series to be a long one, going to 7 games potentially. And Buster already given us a play for Game 7 if it gets there with an overtime play. So a really good series, one that I thought was going to be the most entertaining. So happy to see what we've seen so far. And you mentioned those bounce backs, Buster, and I just find it so interesting in the playoffs and all sports, not just hockey, but how you can go from one game, one thing happening, to in the next game, the completely different thing happening. And that's what we're seeing in the last series we're going to break down here. And I'm going to go to you, Buster, with the Kings and the Oilers. Prior to the start of this series, I really was hoping the Oilers would lose the first game, would win the first game, so I could take LA plus 2.5 games in the series. Unfortunately, LA won the first game, and I was caught a little bit tied up. I didn't love the number on Edmonton and didn't really know what to do as far as the series. So I've kind of been picking game by game here. Where I'm going with this is that I thought it was going to be a bit closer than others might think. But when you look at the Los Angeles Kings, can they get that same defensive effort they got? Can Quick play like that on back-to-back occasions? This series, again, like I've talked about, Buster, it's a close series, but some of these games have been all blowouts and all one-sided hockey. What happens tonight here between the Kings and the Oilers?
Well, Andrew, you're right about this. This series is a lot closer than people think. And I don't know, is McDavid doing that same act that he's done playoff after playoff? Not too sure. That last game, LA looked really good. They play that game tonight. They'll beat them in Edmonton. Not sure. I'm with you. I'm not sure if they can. I actually think they'll play maybe good enough to keep this one close. I know the play of all plays tonight, Edmonton regulation, whatever you're laying, everybody's going to be playing that. So I definitely want no part of anything with Edmonton tonight. I actually kind of like LA. I see right now getting plus 1.5 here, and it's minus 130. I don't really like that. So I think Edmonton will just keep getting hammered tonight, and hopefully that comes down to plus 1.5, minus 120. You talked about Jonathan Quick. Can be really, really good. Well, I know you're old enough as well, but you're probably around 10 or 12, Andrew, when Jonathan Quick in 2012 single-handedly not only put the Kings in the playoffs to get that 8th spot, then in turn went on and won them a cup. Only one other guy in my memory that I will actually believe that did that exact same thing, and that is Mr. Patrick Waugh. So is Quick capable? If he made a lot of good saves. I know it was 4-0, but he made a lot of good saves, and he's got a lot of confidence after that shelling that he took the other day. And that's the problem with Quick. But you know who else is that's a problem with? That's that Mike Smith. I know he's been playing well. He played well at the end of the year. But, gee, I don't know if you can – sometimes he plays like he's fighting the puck a lot. And is this going to be one of those games that if LA puts some pressure on him? And if you remember right, even though Edmonton won that game, game 3, LA have been dominating these first periods. They dominated and they were down 2-0, but I think they outshot him like 22-9, and Smith played really well. Is Smith going to keep playing well? I don't know. I just really think this is a close series. And again, I think LA can play with these guys. Geez, they looked really, really good. And if they can shut down McDavid, they could be there. Here is the major problem for LA. Special teams. Oh my goodness. How atrocious are their special teams? And Edmonton are really, really good in the power play. That is why Edmonton and everybody will be betting Edmonton tonight. My hope is that LA somehow, whether it be lucky or whether it be Jonathan Quick standing on his head, or how about try not getting the penalty box? Let's give that a go, right? So I like LA plus 1.5. I think it's going to be a close game tonight, a lot closer than probably everybody else will think.
Yeah, I agree with you on that plus 1.5. And to your point, I think the money will continue to just come in on Edmonton here in this kind of bounce back game. And hopefully we get a better number on the plus 1.5. But it has been kind of one team zigs, the other team zags, Carm. It's 2-2 as far as the series goes, but these games have been very lopsided. What are your thoughts here, Carm?
One of the probably the most annoying things I see on social media or like even in chat groups and stuff are people who want to blame the star players like Connor McDavid and say Connor McDavid, he can't get the team out of the first round. It's not his job to get the team out of the first round. One player can't do it. The whole team has to play as a unit. They expect, Connor McDavid only has 1 goal. He also has 5 assists to go with it. The idea is you win your line and matchups. McDavid has done it in this series. This should be the closeout game. If not for that Mike Smith error in game 1, where he gave it away trying to, and we mentioned it. He's very good with his stick, but he tried to go up the ice, gave it away, got scored on. Listen, they should be closing out this series tonight, and they're not. They're tied at 2. Let's not blame it on one player. You want to talk about players who are missing? Maybe you talk about John Tavares for the Leafs, who has been non-existent as far as that goes. But they're playing well. Edmonton's playing well. Whether they get out of this series or not could be determined tonight. But I'm not worried about this Oilers team. The stars on this team are performing. They need to get the goaltending that goes with it. And obviously that one game put him in the hole. But 6-0, 8-2 after that. Quick stole the game in game 4. Can he steal it in game 5 in Edmonton? I don't think so. So whether it's a regulation on the Oilers, whether it's a puck line on the Oilers, whether Buster thinks that's a square play, I'm going to go with the square play. I think it's the Oilers tonight. I think the Oilers win. I'm going to take the Oilers on the puck line tonight. Let's not blame it on the players. If they were underperforming and their plus minuses were in the negatives in a 2-game series, then you can talk about it. But no, come on, man. Let's
get your point, Carm, but I gotta.
Let's not put it on the shoulders of one guy. Let's not put it on the shoulders of
rebuttal here,
one guy.
because I'm just a guess. Can I rebuttal?
Go ahead, Buster.
Because obviously it was a shot at me for saying about
Buster. Hold on a second. I am saying, and don't give me this narrative of it's your show and whatever. I am making a point on the show the same way I made the point the Prez last Wednesday that let's not blame one guy on a team. Let's not blame 2 guys on a team. If they underperform and they have and they've been beaten, the line matchups, they have a terrible plus minus and they underperform. Yes, you can get them at the end of the series. But let's not go with the narrative that we're going to blame Connor McDavid because he can't turn it on in the playoffs and score 7 goals in a series and win it for them. It is not up to them. You need good goaltending. And we've seen some shaky goaltending thus far in the playoffs, guys.
Buster, I want to give you a chance I want to give you a chance to answer Carm because he was half speaking to the crowd and half speaking to you probably a little. But I will say, Carm.
Well, I think so.
I agree with what you're saying a little bit, Carm, but there's also like half and half opinion, right? Because I'm the one that always preaches how important depth is. Evander Kane getting a hat trick the other day is really important. And that's to your point, Carm. McDavid can't do it all on his own. But we look at McDavid and Matthews, how highly talked about they are throughout 82 games in the regular season. And then if you don't get past the first round and you score 1 or 2 goals, I think there's a reason why last year Matthews was crapped on, Carm. And we can't just say, well, he didn't get it done. His team didn't get it done either. If you score 40 goals in a season and score 2 in the playoffs, isn't that a problem?
So Sidney Crosby, if they get bounced in the first round, getting swept by the New York Islanders, is Crosby done? Or do we blame someone else? No,
you're missing my point. But if LeBron James averaged 10 points and 10 assists in the playoffs, then isn't that what he's paid to do? Perform in the playoffs?
He's got 6 points right now through 4 games, right? One of the games they were shut out.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm talking about McDavid. The narrative on him is a bad one for them. You look at their penalty minutes; they were clearly frustrated. LA did exactly what they were supposed to do: frustrate the team, keep them off the score sheet. They took penalties and they went to the box, and you're not going to score when you're shorthanded for a majority of the game. So they did exactly what they needed to do to win that game off of an 8-2 embarrassment the night or 2 nights previous. But I'm just saying the narrative of people jumping on the stars of a team and saying they're the reason why they haven't advanced out of the first round, I think is a complete joke.
Well, that point has definitely been made,
now?
Buster. We'll get your opinion.
I know we're almost out of time for the show.
Buster, hold on. We're gonna get your point. Then right after you say it, because I'm agreeing with you a little bit, and I agree with Parent a little bit. Then I want a best bet from you right after. All right, go ahead. Okay.
For starters, I'm not even going to bother arguing with Carmine on this show. It's kind of pointless. But all I said was that McDavid needs to show up. He is their main guy. That's all. It's a fact. There's nothing. It's a fact. I don't care if he's a plus 100. He's their guy. If LA goes up 2-0 tonight and he doesn't show up, whether it's not just him, I get that. But he is the guy that everybody looks to, and that's why everybody has that narrative. I understand what Carmine's saying, but the point being is he does have to be above. If Tom Brady started throwing interceptions in the Super Bowl, they blame Tom Brady. Who gets all the praise for the win? Tom Brady. But guess what? Yeah. It's a full team. If he doesn't have a great offensive line that no one touches him, he can sit there and have a coffee back there half the time. Guess what? So I understand everybody's going to have narratives. Isn't that the beauty of life? Everybody gets to have an opinion. Everybody has free speech. And everybody, if that's the narrative, that's their narrative. So, you know what? No problem. McDavid just has to be better. That's all I'm saying. Okay? As far as my show best bet, we're going to go with a team I really like tonight. We're going to go, of course, got to go first period, puck line, right? It wouldn't be any other way. There's not too many more shows going here. So going to go Minnesota, first period puck line, plus 155. Like them to get the jump tonight. Also like them to have Fleury to bounce back in a big game. Don't think he allows too many goals, at least not right from the start. Minnesota being at home, all those plus comments that I said earlier when we talked about it, that's our game. And make sure you go over to sportsmemo.com. I'm the $2 handicapper along with John Ryan and our totals, and you can get 3 top plays for only $5. So make sure you head over and grab those, and best of luck to everyone out there. Best of luck to everyone in the chat.
Always great having you on, and love those first period plays. Best of luck to you, Buster. Carm, over to you for your best bet, and of course, what you have up for grabs tonight. And I believe you also have a 5% play going.
Yeah, busy day for me. 5% play up in soccer today. 3 plays up in the NHL tonight. 1 day all access gets them all for $39. I'm going to go back to the first game we talked at the beginning of the show on. I'm going to go to the over in the first period of this Bruins game. All 4 games thus far, as I said, the game total, full game total, have gone over the total. It's been unconventional, but they're getting goals. Sometimes they're coming late. The last 3 games have gone over the total in the first period, and that's exactly where I'm going here. Very minimal juice. I'm going to lay the -125 and the goal and a half and go over the first period total. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to, Andrew, best of luck with your 2% play tonight. I'm going to grab a cerveza like Buster normally does, and I'm going to hit the beach after this show is over.
Well, hey, you guys have your Mexico, Dominican. I'm just here in the hopefully getting warmer east coast of Canada. But cheers to both of you guys. Yes, I do have a big play up tonight in the MLB. It's only $2. Both of these guys also have 5% plays, so it's a big day for all 3 of us. My best bet for the show, guys, it's a 5-1 record now since the playoffs started for these prop plays. A few people complained, why am I doing props for best bets now? Well, it's going pretty well in the playoffs. Today, Jordan Staal over 1.5 shots on goal. Not 2.5, 1.5 shots on goal. Jordan Staal at -120. I mentioned how valuable that third line is for the Carolina Hurricanes, and we'll see it tonight in action here with that third line, how much ice time they get, the offense that they create. Jordan Staal over 1.5 shots. Lock it in. Carmine, Bianco looking at Boston, Carolina, first period over 1.5, and Buster with Minnesota, first period -0.5 goal, plus 155. Wager Talk today coming up right after this show, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.